Welcome to today's explainer. So let's be real for a second. Have you ever looked in the mirror, tried to squeeze into an old favorite pair of jeans, or finished a workout and just thought, man, why is my body acting so completely different these days? Well, if you have, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to reframe our entire understanding of why our bodies change as we get older. You know, we constantly blame aging for everything, right? But the reality? The reality is way more fascinating and honestly, so much more within your control than you probably think. All right, let's get into it.
Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering in today's explainer. First, why your body actually changes. Then, we'll meet your chemical messengers. Track how hormones shift across your lifespan, look specifically at metabolism and belly fat, and finally, dive into the power of your lifestyle.
Section 1. Why your body changes, the unseen shift.
Okay, so it's the ultimate question, isn't it? Why doesn't your body work at 50 the same way it did at 25? You've probably noticed it. Recovery from a weekend hike suddenly takes days. Holding onto muscle feels like a part-time job. Sleep just isn't as deep. And weight, well, weight just seems effortlessly easy to gain, especially right around the midsection. Now, it is incredibly tempting to just throw your hands up and say, well, I guess I'm just getting older. But honestly, looking at it that way completely misses the real hidden story of what's happening under the surface.
We really need to flip the script here. Aging isn't just the blind passage of time, and it's certainly not an inevitable, uncontrollable decline. What's actually happening beneath all of those frustrating physical changes is a massive, unseen communication network pulling the strings. We're talking about your hormones. Your body is just undergoing a natural hormonal recalibration, and realizing this is a total game changer because understanding your internal machinery doesn't mean you have to fight aging. It means you can actually start supporting it.
Moving on to Section 2. Meet your chemical messengers, the microscopic network.
So at their absolute core, hormones are your body's chemical messengers. I like to think of them as tiny text messages made of amino acids or cholesterol. They're produced by specialized endocrine glands, and they travel all throughout your bloodstream, constantly pinging your body with instructions. They're sending messages all day long like, hey, metabolize this food, or turn up the energy, or time to power down and prepare for sleep. And here's the kicker. When the frequency or the volume of those messages changes over the years, your entire bodily system recalibrates in response. Now, these messengers basically fall into two main camps, water-soluble and fat-soluble. Water-soluble hormones, like insulin and growth hormone, are kind of like delivery drivers who can't get past the front door. They bind to the surface of a cell and trigger really fast-acting chemical reactions inside. But fat-soluble hormones, think cortisol, estrogen, and testosterone, these guys actually pass directly through the cell membrane and go straight to the nucleus to influence gene activity. They literally turn specific genes on or off. And because they're messing with gene expression, their effects take a bit longer to kick in, but they last much, much longer. But you might be wondering, if these hormones are just flooding through your entire bloodstream, why isn't it just total chaos? Well, it's because of a brilliantly simple lock and key system. A hormone won't just trigger any random cell it bumps into. It only works if a cell has the exact, perfectly matched receptor. The hormone is the key, the cell's receptor is the lock. This ensures that every vital instruction gets to exactly the right place every single time. And to keep this whole network from going off the rails, your body uses a negative feedback loop. Think of it literally exactly like the thermostat in your house. If the temp drops, the thermostat kicks on the heat, right? Well, in your body, if your thyroid hormone levels fall, for instance, your brain signals the thyroid gland to pump out more. Once you have enough, the hormones signal the brain to shut off the stimulation. It is just this beautifully calibrated, ongoing dance designed to keep you in perfect internal balance. If it helps, picture your endocrine system as a giant corporate org chart. Right at the top, in the brain, you have the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. These are your ultimate CEOs, directing all the other glands. Down the chain, you've got the thyroid managing your metabolism, the adrenal glands handling your stress response, the pancreas managing your daily energy and blood sugar via insulin, and the ovaries and testes running the reproduction department. The thing to remember here is that even a tiny shift in output from any of these managers creates huge cascading effects throughout your entire body. All right, Section 3, hormones across your lifespan, a natural timeline. It is wildly fascinating to step back and look at the natural trajectory of our hormones. I mean, they guide our growth before we're even born. They drive rapid brain development in infancy, and as we all know, they completely surge during puberty. By early adulthood, a lot of these systems hit their absolute peak. But then we hit midlife,
growth hormone starts to taper off, insulin sensitivity naturally decreases, and reproductive hormones begin to shift. And as we move into older adulthood, these changes deeply impact our muscle, bone, sleep, and metabolism. But I really want to emphasize this point. These midlife drops, they are a completely normal biological transition. It is not your body failing you.
Let's drill down into those specific age-related shifts for a second. For women, the most dramatic shift is ovarian function during menopause, which drastically changes estrogen levels and directly impacts bone density and fat distribution. Men don't usually experience a sudden cliff drop like that. Instead, it's more of a gradual, varied decline in testosterone. But across the board, for all of us, growth hormone naturally drops, meaning tissue repair slows down. On top of that, our cells become less responsive to insulin, our main blood sugar regulator. Oh, and our ability to regulate cortisol during stress? Yeah, that becomes a bit less efficient too. Again, this is just a new phase of human development, not a defect.
Which brings us to Section 4, Metabolism and Belly Fat, the Chemical Equation.
So, to really understand why our weight changes, we have to meet the specific squad of hormones running your metabolism. Let's call them the metabolism managers. You've got insulin managing blood sugar, cortisol coordinating your stress and energy, thyroid hormones setting your baseline metabolic rate. Then you have leptin, which tells your brain when you're full, and ghrelin, which literally screams at you when you're hungry. And yeah, we've all felt that scream. Plus, your sex hormones are in there dictating muscle mass and fat storage. Remember, none of these work in a vacuum. They are constantly chattering with each other to determine your overall body composition.
So when we start putting on weight as we age, especially that stubborn belly fat, it is rarely just a simple case of eating too many calories. It's actually a multi-step chemical equation. Step 1, you naturally lose a bit of muscle, which immediately lowers the number of calories you burn just sitting around. Step 2, your overall daily energy expenditure drops. Step 3, those shifts in cortisol, estrogen, or testosterone physically change where your body prefers to store fat. And finally, step 4, as your cells become more resistant to insulin, that resistance directly drives the accumulation of visceral fat right around your midsection. It's biological, not just behavioral.
Section 5, The Power of Lifestyle, Taking Back Control.
Now for the good news. You actually have a biology-backed action plan to deal with all of this. First, resistance training directly combats that age-related muscle loss. Boom, step 1 handled. Second, aerobic exercise physically forces your cells to become more sensitive to insulin again. Third, quality sleep is absolutely crucial. It's the only window your body has to repair melatonin, your fullness hormone leptin, and your hunger hormone ghrelin. Fourth, eating a whole food plant-based diet drastically improves insulin sensitivity and cools down internal inflammation. And finally, actively managing your stress helps keep that tricky hormone, cortisol, perfectly in check.
And here is the absolute best part. Because your hormones are an interconnected web, you get to tap into what I call the domino effect. You do not have to fix everything all at once. Upgrading just one lifestyle habit benefits multiple hormone systems at the exact same time. Let's say you just focus on getting better sleep. That single habit naturally lowers your cortisol. Lower cortisol improves your insulin sensitivity. Better insulin sensitivity balances your appetite hormones. Just like that, one positive change cascades beautifully through your entire biological network. Which leads us perfectly to the core thesis of today's explainer. Aging changes hormones, but it does not dictate our future health. Listen, hormones change because they're quite literally designed to help us grow, reproduce, adapt, and eventually age. You can't hit pause on these natural transitions. But through your daily lifestyle choices, you absolutely hold the power to influence how well your body navigates them. At the end of the day, you are in control of your biological destiny. Now, we've brought it up a few times today, usually calling it a stress hormone, but cortisol actually does so much more than that. And to be honest, it gets blamed for a lot of things it doesn't even do. So what is the real story behind your body's most misunderstood chemical messenger? Well, that is a wild rabbit hole, and we are going to be diving headfirst into it in our very next explainer. So until then, keep learning, stay focused, and take care of those chemical messengers.